In this session, we're going to take a look at the cheese Patafla and the Flam 5 Patafla, taking the regular Patafla rudiment, breaking it down to the most minimalistic stroke. Basic eighth note pattern, flam on the downbeat and flam every upbeat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Start off with that first and make sure that the flam, the grace note before the flam, is open enough and not too flat. You want to hear that grace note before the flam. So once you've established that, then you can add the first diddle on the downbeat. When playing this rudiment slow, you want to make sure that you always have the rhythm first. Make sure that the double is open, practice with the metronome, and make sure that you're true to that 16-note rhythm. When adding in the left-hand flam, make sure that that left-hand flam has some sense of a stop stick. By stopping the left hand before the double, you're allowing that next double to have the correct rhythm. Always practice with the metronome to make sure that that true rhythm is always there. As the tempo gets faster with this, the hand should relax and the fulcrum should relax. Not as much pressure up front, relaxing the back fingers and letting the stick bounce a little bit. So, my flam isn't as defined and I let the left hand do a little bit more bouncing. Making sure that we get an accent, a tap, and another accent. So, making sure that the hands are always relaxed. Now as we get faster with this, we're going to put a lot more attention up to the front of the fingers and the fulcrum. So it's much less of a staccato approach and much more of a legato approach. Relaxing the hands and letting the hands bounce a little bit more. At a slower tempo, making sure that everything's staccato, making sure that all the heights are there, and we're stopping the stick after each stroke to practice every stroke in the technique at that slow tempo. A common variation of that rudiment is to go, instead of going hand to hand, to switch and alternate between the hands, so you'd have kind of an inverted sticking. So instead of switching back to the right hand, you would continue on that same left hand and let it bounce. The way you're going to do that is to relax the left hand and let it bounce and not stop after the first flam. So you have two flams, which will, the first one will bounce, the second one will stop. The next step is to add the double onto that same left hand and the release. So that would require a little bit more pressure up in the front of the fulcrum to get that double after bouncing the flam before it. So, after I let that flam bounce, I'm putting a little bit more pressure in the front of my fulcrum to get that squeeze out for the double. The same thing can be applied to the left hand. Then squeezing for the double. Once you've worked this up to speed, now you can go alternating, going on the right hand to the left hand to the right hand to the left hand, back and forth, like so. That same rudiment now faster. Now making sure that you use a little bit of forearm as you do that to allow the bounce. Playing all wrists and fingers isn't going to get this rudiment out. Adding a little bit of forearm support is going to allow the stick to bounce a little bit more, creating an even sound from right to left.